live yet. Alrighty, going live and I'm live. Alrighty. Hi there. How you guys doing? For anybody filing in during a replay, I would humbly ask that you consider liking and subscribing if you're not already subscribed. I'm just really quickly checking if I can redirect people at the end of my stream to another stream on a different channel, but that particular setting is not being forthcoming right now. I can look up how to enable it so that other people can redirect to my channel, but to redirect to another channel is not something I'm quite finding right now. It's very weird because I can totally, yeah, I got a setting right here that says I can redirect. I can receive redirections from other people. So I'm gonna have to leave that alone for now, but I would have loved to do that since I'm going to be ending at 8 o'clock sharp, or like 7:58 sharp, in order to watch a whole other show. And if I could redirect people to what I'm watching, I would love to do that. I mean, why not? Seen other people do it. It makes sense. It's a nice thing to do. It's really easy to do. Well, it should be really easy to do. But anyway, we got that put aside for now. So we're going to go ahead and dive right on into what we're doing today. We are going to use an application called Upscayl in order to upscale some images. Which images do I wish to upscale? Well, allow me to show you. Let's exit a couple of things here. Oh man, I can get sidetracked so easily. There's many other things to watch on YouTube here today. Alrighty, so what I want to do is I want to take these book covers right here. These are the Japanese book covers for the Hyperion Cantos. And Hyperion is a fantastic science fiction novel series by Dan Simmons. You can, go to a whole entire Wikia page about it. If you scroll down enough, or you just type in fandom. And interestingly, I don't even know if I can edit this or add my own contributions to this, but I've read the book enough that I can totally update some of the planets, some of the worlds. And so in Hyperion, you have this thing called the World Web, and there are these forecaster portals. They're called forecasters because it almost sounds like magic, And in this case, this is a large, military forecaster portal in a city which appears to be Tau Ceti Center. Tau Ceti Center happens to be located by the star Tau Ceti. Big coincidence, And it's not too far away. It's like 11 or 14 light years away. So, it's feasible that we can get there with something similar to our current level of technology. But in a far future setting, of course, if you invent a portal which allows instantaneous travel, which is exactly what a forecaster allows you to do, it allows you to pretty much instantly step through and appear on a different planet. It's sort of like the Star Trek episode, the Next Generation episode, when they stumble into the Iconian structure and they find this portal that the Iconians were known for utilizing in order to appear on different planets instantaneously, kind of making them look like, scary magicians. Here's another example. This particular rendition of a forecaster portal is similar to what you would find on the book cover for Endymion. And if we look here, you can see right there on the book cover. Oh, that's an awful book cover, jeez. Man, internet libraries, they're funny. So you get the idea, That's one version of that book cover. I would love to find a larger image than what we're looking at here. Okay, this will have to suffice. And you can see, you got your characters on a raft made out of logs. And they're on a river or in some body of water. And on the opposite side of the arch is a completely different biome. You have blue skies and, all kinds of flora on this side of the portal, but on the opposite side, clearly, that looks, a bit more arid. Whatever planet it might be, it's certainly not the same environment of the planet we're looking at right in front of the portal. And so that's basically a key element to the universe of Hyperion, and there's a lot going on. The Japanese book covers are just so much cooler than the American covers. I mean, this is fine. I mean, this is a good cover too. In fact, there's a much larger version of this image right here that I wish I had it on hand right now. In fact, I think I do have it on hand because a while ago I was going to do a video about this, and so I should have the imagery for this. If I just do a file search on one of my drive letters, it should come up pretty quickly. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay, we're getting warmer here. Open in a new window, perhaps? Oh yeah, there we go. Alright, good. I got it. Well, I don't have the image, but we have some book cover art from various editions, including, I think, a Polish edition floating around somewhere. And, this, I believe, is supposed to be a rendition of one of the, in the time tombs, you have the Sphinx or something that resembles an alien creature. This is totally not English right here, but you got a cool spaceship on the cover. The Shrike. So right here, you got Saul Weintraub, the wandering Jew, with his daughter, Rachel Weintraub, and basically he's bringing her to the Shrike as a burnt offering, or, I'm not really up on my theology, but Saul Weintraub is, a theological scholar. He's a scholar more than anything, but he's also one of the few, Jewish people out in the world web. And what is the world web? Well, basically all of the planets that are part of the hegemony of man are connected by this world web. And you have hundreds, like I think 200 or 300 worlds in the web. Some of the popular locations might look something like this. You have a big river called the River Tethys, named after one of Saturn's moons, I believe. And the Tethys or Tethys River is a multi-world river. So as you go through that river, you may have some fantasy-looking environment like this, or it might be a more conventional river. And all throughout, you'll have forecaster portals interspersed throughout the river system that will bring you to different worlds. And so you could ride a boat on this one river, and throughout this entire river, you will go through multiple worlds in a given day or a given week, depending on the tour that you're taking. So that's kind of cool. Once again, we have the military size. So you have forecaster portals that are more, doorway sized, almost like a subway station. You go to a forecaster terminus and you present your universal card, and, you step through, you go to a different planet. And interestingly, it doesn't really cost anything to operate these. But in the second book, they do underscore, in both books, they do underscore that there is a cost, that not every citizen in the world web can actually afford to, travel by forecaster to multiple worlds. Some people, it's cheaper for them to travel by spin ship, and a spin ship is essentially, spinning up from, the inner solar system you're using. You're, pretty much, you can't fly straight out of a star system. You got to spin out of it like a spiral pattern. And somehow that's more economical to use that and a hyperdrive known as a Hawking drive than it is for those citizens to use a forecaster. And that's probably a nod to some of the, weird things we have in our world, where certain things are almost like prohibitively expensive for no good reason at times. Here's another example. This almost looks like Qumriyad, or the other planet. If it's not Qumriyad, it's what is it called? Hebron. And Hebron is basically Israel, but a whole planet, Whereas Qumriyad is the Arab world, the Muslim world. Basically, the religion, it's, pretty much everyone on that planet is Muslim. And then you have Palestinians on Mars. That's like a big part of this story too. That's a big part of one of the main characters. And so you have a character named Colonel Fetman Kassad. And he's so cool. And that's not him right there, but we're going to find him. Oh, that might be him. That looks like him. Yeah, that's him, but this is in a future sequence in the book, because there's a lot of time travel stuff going on in this book, But let's see if we can find the picture I really want to show. I have a lot of pictures of the Shrike. Yeah, this is what made me fall in love with the story right here. Like, within the first pages, you hear about this tree ship Yggdrasil. And basically, these guys called the Templars, they have a world called God's Grove, and they're like ecologists. They are really into this guy named John Weir. And they sort of like, I wouldn't say they worship him, but they worship what he's about. You know, he's like, this guy was a known naturalist and ecologist in our time, in our past, century, the 20th century. And I think he liked to hang out around redwood trees a lot. And so these guys, the Templars, they like to, just kind of like take trees, genetically modify them, and make them into spaceships, for example. And so they use containment fields or force fields to keep the air in. And at this point, clearly they're confident enough in their level of technology that they're willing to go into space for extended cruises with their force fields. Now, part of that is the type of force field they utilize. They're not just using, conventional containment fields that are technology based, but they also farm a creature, or they, I don't know if you call it, they obtain a creature, they take care of a creature that they find near Aldebaran in the asteroid belts, I believe. And they're called, what are they called? Ergs. And ergs are almost like these little worm-shaped things made of energy, or that live on energy in an asteroid field somewhere. And the Templars figured out that you can communicate with them, you can train them, reward them with certain types of radiation that they use as brain food, so to speak. And as a result, you bring a few of these ergs aboard your tree ship, and they will help you make stronger containment fields, stronger force fields. They will help you manipulate force fields in ways that, I guess are better than the technology of the times. So another example here, and in this case, you can see multiple, layers of containment field. You have some engineering pods or engineering spheres down here. You have some kind of drive system to propel the ship, and it's also equipped with a Hawking drive and a singularity that is imprisoned at the base of the ship, as they put it in the first few pages of the book. And this singularity gives them 1/6 Earth normal gravity, so basically lunar gravity. It's not full gravity, but it's enough to prevent osteoporosis on a longer cruise. Although you wouldn't necessarily spend an extended amount of time on it, it is a opulent sort of way to travel through the stars. But now getting to Fedman Kassad, that is the man from Mars right here, the Palestinian man from Mars, a soldier of the military arm of the hegemony known as Force. Literally, it looks like an acronym, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just literally capital letters Force, and that is the name of the military. And you got Force Air, Force Space, Force Ground, but essentially they're all part of the same main organization. So you have him fighting the Strike here, and the Strike is like the baddest freaking bad guy ever. Like, you got the Terminator, you got, Arnold Schwarzenegger with or without his skin, with the metal endoskeleton. And this guy is 3 meters tall, has barbed wire, pointy wire, chrome all over it. So, you get a hug from this thing and you're dead. In other renditions of the Strike, you have like spikes coming out everywhere, so that you're guaranteed to get sliced up from the slightest caress, so to speak. And so you see he's wearing this cool, body armor here, or whatever you want to call it. It's got like artificial muscle augmentation in there to help, sort of, like almost like almost like powered armor. It's got, sutures built into it, so if your leg gets sliced off, it, potentially will help to like do some triage. You got some cool weaponry there. You got this thing that looks almost like some kind of propulsion unit. I don't really know what it is. I mean, at this point, this is a album cover. I believe this is literally an album cover. So of course there's some poetic license taken there, but it looks like something a military guy would wear. You got like a little antenna for communications. You have like static discharge happening all over here. And we didn't even get up to the part about upscaling yet, did we? No, we didn't. We got to get to that soon. So, that's a little background on Dan Simmons' Hyperion Cantos. And in a future video, I would love to talk about the space ships, because like there's some artwork of the ships here, and I want to put them together and go over them and critique them. And I don't want to knock the artists, especially independent artists. Obviously, these are book covers, but there's a lot of independent artwork. My issue is a lot of times the ship is presented as a ship that lays down on its side, but this particular ship, the main character, the consul, the political guy, like in Rome they had the consul, consul. That is a sort of like a diplomatic position, and it's usually described like a stereotypical rocket ship, like vertical standing, almost like this, almost like one of the prototypes of Elon's, Falcon Heavy, big Falcon rocket. What is it called now? This Falcon Super Heavy. And yet, artists continue to depict it in this sideways format, and it looks cool, it looks futuristic, and there are times in the book where it does land on its side, but a lot of times it is properly described as something like this. In fact, I've never seen this image, but I like it. I like it because it's trying to go for the vertical floor plan here. This is like a really low resolution rendition. Almost looks like the cover of Starman Jones. Once again, you have like, I think that's his EMV, his magnetic vehicle. This, like I said, I got to go through these, and that's a whole other topic. But I feel that my main critique basically is I feel that we need more vertical renditions of the console spaceship, because that is the floor plan. It's almost like the what do you call it? The Donager from Expanse. The Donager and the MCRN Tachi / Rocinante. That is a floor plan like an office building, where the basement is where your propulsion is, and the acceleration gravity generated, the acceleration causes you to be drawn to the floor basically, and this is your substitute for artificial gravity in the Expanse. In Hyperion they have other ways, but the acceleration certainly is a convenient way to generate some form of gravity when you are not using another method to do it. So anyway, now let's get right on topic here. Okay, so that's enough about the ships of Hyperion, and holy cow, I've opened up a lot of tabs now, so I want to clean up these tabs real quick because I might need them later. Yeah, I'm gonna need these tabs later, but they have nothing to do with our stream right now. In fact, that's not even a tab we need. I don't even know what camera I'm on right now. Was I showing you my screen just now? I don't even know. I hate when that happens. Sometimes you switch between your screen and whatnot, only to discover that you've been on your webcam for 10 minutes. Okay, good. I've been on my screen. Good. Right. So now to our feature presentation. We have an image. Got it from the Hyperion subreddit. Someone kindly posted it 3 years ago. And I've used a few online upscaling tools to upscale it. You can go to a web browser, Google it, but a lot of these sites will either ask you to pay, or they'll ask you to sign up and potentially get junk mail from them. Neither of these things are appetizing to me. And so what I want is something I could run on my own computer, my own PC, or on some machine that is under my roof. And we have that. So I went ahead, I saved this image. I also found this pair of images right here, and these will come in handy because they are the same as what we see in the middle here. So these two, whoops, I'm in scrolling mode. Stop it. Okay, as I was saying, these two, okay, is it done? All right, good. So these two book covers here, 1 and 2, are identical to these two book covers, except the print down here where it says Hyperion has this stone-like backdrop on it. Otherwise, there's a little difference in what I would call color grading, if that's even the right terminology. But I'm most concerned about this line in the middle, whereas this image here is more complete. It's also a higher resolution image. So even for this panel here, we have a higher resolution versus this here, which is literally 337 by 500. That is like basically 480p with a narrower frame. And so what I think I can do is I can upscale both and then do some Photoshop. You know, take this cover and the other cover, which do not appear to have a line in the middle or not a very distinct line, and combine them in order to get a cleaner image here to fix up that line. And then we can match the color grading as needed. Whereas down here, I'll be relegated to using the clone stamp or something along those lines to fix it up. But nonetheless, as far as I can tell, these are the best copies, and I just love these book covers. I mean, like, on the far right over here, top right quadrant, we have one extra book cover for each book. So it's a 4-book series, collectively known as the Hyperion Cantos. And on the far right, we have an extra book cover for both, you know, Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, left and right, as well as one extra book cover for both Endymion and Rise of Endymion. But this book cover just sold me. I mean, I just love it. Like, you have a drop ship doing a landing. You got, like, you know, some landing thrusters being activated. You have Braun Lamia hooked up to a USB cord. I mean, that's what it is, right? You know, you got a cortical shunt hooked up to her skull while she's kind of hanging outside the time tombs. You got some lady who looks like, I don't know, a nun or a handmaiden's tale lady. You got John Keats sitting in a wooden chair. You have the Strike holding Saul Weintraub's baby. You have a fleet of spaceships doing something, probably going into battle or something, right? You got the time tombs. You got someone entering the time tombs. You got nukes, nuclear explosions, nuclear mushroom clouds going off. So, I mean, this is like just action-packed cover, and we didn't even get into these other covers here. I mean, like, you know, the only issue I have with this one mainly is the fact that the Mobius cube is not a cube over here, but I can forgive that because on the whole, it's still good. You know, I mean, you got Braun Lamia looking like the badass woman, almost looks a bit like Sigourney Weaver from Alien, if you ask me, you know, with the little curly hair. You got Saul Weintraub looking a little older over here, but holding his oversized infant, and I guess we could forgive that because, you know, at an earlier point in the timeline in the story, she would have been a little bit larger due to her medical condition where she's aging backwards. You got Father Lenore Hoyt holding his Belalenka. It's a funny looking guitar right there. And clearly that is Fedmon Kassad. I mean, it must be Colonel Kassad. I mean, he's holding, you know, weaponry. He's got a helmet with a visor on it. That is a military man if I've ever seen one. And that's his girlfriend Moneta. And there's some details that we're going to notice in a little while. So anyway, let's get right to it. We've already saved the image, but now we need upscale. So to begin, we will download Upscayl. To do this, we will go conduct a Google search. That's Upscayl with a letter Y. And you can see right here, I spelled it with a letter Y right here. First result is a GitHub repository. Now, this initially made me think I was going to have to clone it and, you know, connect my Linux box and, you know, do some compiling or even worse, deal with a freaking Flatpak installer. But luckily, if you scroll down, there's a big red download button, and it clearly indicates that they have a easy installer for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And depending on what Linux distro you're using or what you prefer, you have a couple of options here that should make it pretty easy to set up, potentially. So I went ahead, I clicked on download. I have an executable file right here that I've already installed. You know, we have it right here too. And so once you install it, it'll prompt you to launch it automatically. Or you can just go to your start menu and type the word upscale in and launch it. And then you can pin it to the bottom if you so desire. And so once we're here, our first step 1 is to select an image. And in this case, we're going to start small. Now, you can see I have an output folder here. So I'm just going to go here and, you know, just move these files here so we can output here. But my input folder is, okay, good, I couldn't delete that. So my input folder is here. So these are the 3 images which I've already downloaded. And we're going to start with the smaller image just because it should be faster to do. Okay, so we've double clicked on that. Where's the application here? That's our input image. Now, what type of upscaling do we want to use? Now, this initially had me confused. The first one here says real S grand. The second one says VMACRI in parentheses. I don't know what this word is, but I did a little bit of a search, and I figured like, okay, well maybe if I can do like a keyword search for the word VMACRI, it would tell me what that is. And it basically says a creation of BS grand with more details and less smoothing. So basically, it's going to try to preserve detail without trying to blur the image, I guess. Because, that's a way you could, essentially upscale image or take an image of low quality and make it look good on a high-res screen is by smoothing it or even making it blurrier. Made by interpolating the IRL model. So because it's AI machine learning, they used real life models. They had to train it. That's the whole point of AI. It's not really, sentient or anything like that, but you present dozens or thousands of real life examples. And the idea is that maybe you would take like a high quality photograph and say, here's a high quality photo that is in its original form. Then you might give it a low resolution copy of that photo that looks like crap, and allow the AI to sort of see certain details, to sort of go, okay, well, a diagonal line looks like this, but when you take a low resolution enlargement, it looks like a flight of steps, and maybe you have some gray pixels in between those jagged edges. And so the AI model, the machine learning model, can determine through the algorithm it now has that this diagonal step of jagged pixels should be a diagonal line with a smoother shape. And so, that is essentially what they're doing with the AI. And it says it also does models such as, I don't know what that is, SciX, Upscayl, Pixel Perfect, etc. Now, Pixel Perfect sounds familiar. I know when I use, I don't know much about it, but I do know when I play my N64 with the HDMI output and when I use certain emulators, this is an option for, upscaling lower resolutions on higher res screens. This was things like skin and other detail. This is, okay, that's not English. This was things like skin and other details don't become mushy and blurry. And so that's like, what it does. And you can read up about different models that do image and video upscaling and how they work, why they work. And I want to give a shout out to our friend here, friend of the channel and friend of all of people in the community of YouTube channels that I am friends with. And oh my God, I did not switch to my screen. Look at that. So I was just showing this. And so just for reference, everything I just said was being read from here. So I was reading, I was reading this right here. So basically everything I just read out loud about Remacry, whatever the heck that word means. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But, apparently these are examples. And so you can see like an example of a low res image. But as I was saying, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Brandon Looney Tunes fan 2000. And I've never done this before, but can I do that? No, okay. I don't want to pin the message. I don't know how to when people on a YouTube channel show a chat message, so somebody leaves a message and then they can put it up on the screen. I have no idea how people do that, gotta figure that out. But yeah, I do want to say what's up to Brandon Looney Tunes fan 2000. He's got a good channel. He's been doing a lot of new stuff lately. And I hope all is well, Brandon. Yeah, man, like I don't even know how to I'll even put a link to Brandon's channel down here real quick. Yeah, I don't know how to make it so that a message comes up on screen during a stream. It must be a feature part of Streamlabs OBS or some crap like that, I guess. I'll have to ask if I don't figure it out sooner. Oh, and YouTube does not like the bitrate I'm using. Okay, so I got to make some adjustments there next to my stream. So getting back on topic here. This is an example. This is actually an image that was, zoomed in upon it. And you get these jagged pixels. And then it did a pretty good job. This particular 4x upscaler to get it up. And in fact, it looks like it even lets us do some kind of comparison. So you can even tell it to do like a slower upscaling. I don't know, what it's actually doing. Whoops. I click on the image, and it's got like, I guess these are like different levels of quality. Oh, I see. So, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, it's a slideshow. Okay. And so this one's interesting because I think this, you can tell, it sort of smooths it out. Okay, how do I get out of this? It smooths out a lot of detail that would normally be there if the original image was of higher quality, whereas it has a pretty good idea of what grass is supposed to look like. In reality, if this man had, like, large pores on his nose, like, many of us do, you wouldn't see that. It wouldn't reflect it in the model, most likely. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It did a pretty good job, though. It looks as good as it should, but, I don't think the crease on his, eyebrow would normally look like that in real life. I could be wrong, just kind of speculating at this point. But all things considered, it is an improvement upon this lower res image here. So anyway, let's get right to it because I have like 10 minutes to do this now. Okay, so step one, we supplied it with an image. I clicked select image, I browsed, I found it in a folder. Step two, select general photo vMacro because I did some reading and this seems to be the ideal option to choose. Step three, I want to tell it to save it to this folder right here. So we're going to hit select folder. And I'm going to copy and paste the path. Then finally, we're going to click upscale. And this is kind of interesting here because when I click start, I want to have this up on screen. Okay, so it's upscaling now. We have like a percentage in the middle here. What you'll notice is my GPU 3D accelerator jumped up, spiked for like a brief moment. It also used up nearly a gig of video memory for like that brief amount of time. Just thought that was kind of interesting. So now we can do this. We can use this to zoom in, which is kind of sloppy because, like, when you zoom in like this, it sort of like pans automatically and it can be kind of annoying. But we can also just take a close look at our screen and see some of the improvement. And you can see where the text at the bottom is blurry on the left, but then as I look to the right of this white line, things come out sharper. Or if we take a closer look at the priest in the robe with the guitar or balalaika, that is Father Lenore Hoyt. And you can see like the crucifix on his neck, on his chest. Blurry, hardly discernible, and then now it's a much sharper shape. And overall, the only issue I have is that, some of these things probably look better on the original book cover, but they take on an impressionist artwork quality when you look at them like this. And so that's a double-edged sword, but it's forgivable. It's art, so, I can understand the impressionism. What I do find interesting is when you look at the lady down here, that is, I believe that is Moneta. And Moneta is basically completely naked, except for these boots. So she's wearing these almost knee-high boots, but is otherwise completely nude. And I find that hilarious. I didn't notice it initially. Another detail is up here, right under the old man. Under his armpit, under his elbow, there's a stone object. And I didn't initially see it as a statue. I just thought maybe it was a lump of stone. But no, that's a statue. That is a statue of a man. Probably, possibly a statue of Sad King Billy, but I'm not sure. It could be something else. It could be a statue of himself, for all we know. But anyone who read the story will know who I'm talking about. So yeah, there's that. But then other details look great. So for example, like the background. You see on the left side where the stars are in the blue background, it looks kind of grainy, a little blurry. You see compression artifacts. That's a big one right there. JPEG compression artifacts will rear their ugly head, especially when you enlarge any image using a conventional method. But over here, it turns it into a pretty sharp blue sky. Like, it might misinterpret some of the artifacts and, treat them as shading or something like that. But overall, we have stars and, white dots in the background that I presume are stars. And they go from being blurry white splotches to being mostly points of light. If I knew what these were supposed to be, I could potentially go into Photoshop and make them round. Or I could potentially, like over here, this diagonally shaped star over here, which is hard to highlight because my screen is scrolling. There's some stars that like long, they're not really round. That might be a double star, but you have two stars next to each other. And when you shrunk the image, when you downscaled it to make it low resolution, those two separate stars became one star. And then when you re-enlarge it and upscale it, the computer doesn't actually know that those are two separate points of white. And so it treats them as one, like, slightly longer point of white ink, so to speak. But on the other hand, you got this, like, red diamond over here, that logo, whatever that is. Oh, come on. Doesn't want to scroll. And it certainly looks better on the right. You can see the white text on it is much sharper now on the right than it is on the left. On the other hand, there are some issues. Like, in my opinion, I'm suspecting that this diamond was originally a perfectly shaped diamond, and now it looks like, well, doesn't have perfect edges, imperfect corners. But maybe that's how it was designed from in the first place. Maybe I just don't have an original to judge. But bottom line is, that didn't take long, right? Now we're going to do it with 8 times upscaling. When you double upscale, the original setting was 4 times upscaling. Now, when you double it, it's going to do it by a factor of 8 times, if that's the right terminology. So let's hit upscale again. This time, it's going to take considerably longer. And I don't think it's going to give us radically better results because, like I said, there's just only so much you can improve certain parts of the image. But nonetheless, if I'm looking to make a poster print, then this is the way to do it. This is one good way to do it. If I want to touch it up in Photoshop, this is still a good starting point, in my opinion. So once again, we can see the GPU went to like 99% for quite a bit longer than before. It's using up like 1.2 gigs of extra video memory right now, about a little over a gig. And we can confirm that because it says 3.1 gigs being used right now. But when it's done, it's going to go back down to whatever it was. And we're currently at 98.5. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's weird. Okay, there we go. And so, yeah, it was about 1.1, 1.2 gigs of video memory being utilized just by doing that. Okay, so now, same concept. We scroll it. It's going to be really hard to see unless we enlarge it. And ultimately, I think the best way is to look at the saved file. But we get a pretty good idea. It appears to be pretty much very similar. So far, so good. So while it processes the larger image, we're going to take a look at the saved file. So we're going to do the complete large image right here. We're going to tell it to use single upscaling, and we're going to output it to the same folder that we used earlier. We're going to click upscale, and while that's happening, we're going to take a look at what we have so far. So this is ImageGlass, and ImageGlass automatically presents all images from the same folder as a sort of film strip. So we can use the arrow keys to go between them like a slideshow. And I don't expect to see much of a difference. Maybe luminosity looks a little different at a glance. But we're currently at, we obviously are zoomed out. And you can even see that the first image, the 4 times upscaled image, is currently at 42% zoom, whereas the 8 times image is at 10% zoom. And so when we double click on it to go to 100% zoom, which is basically 1-to-1 ratio, now you can see, what it looks like. So that's, 4 times upscaling and 8 times upscaling. And so this is the point where you really start to see that impressionist art quality going on over here. And, I would love to get my hands on an original book cover. I might even order the Japanese version of this book so that I can scan it myself, because if I could scan it myself at a high DPI and then use this upscaling method, I could probably do some really nice things to it. Because once you scan it at a high enough resolution, you're gonna have that Pantone pattern. Anything that is printed like on a book cover or magazine is usually gonna have that Pantone dot pattern, almost like forms of screen printing. And basically that would normally dictate your upper limit of scanning. But I figure you supply the scanner, you supply the computer with a high enough resolution scan, we can work something out. So now we have a third image in the folder, and what we're going to do is we're going to instruct Upscayl to do it again. Now, you can hardly see. Okay, we'll give it a second, it's hiccuping. There we are. You can barely see any difference here because this image is so wide and so far zoomed out. But anyway, we're going to say, go ahead, upscale it like that. And I wanted to make note of this part of the image up here that is vastly improved. So if we go back to our input images here, okay, the one on the right is our original. And in fact, I can't zoom in any more than I can now, but we see some jagged edges on the kanji, on the Japanese letters, and based on like just my human understanding what this would look like in the original form, despite the pixelation, I suspect that the AI algorithm, machine learning algorithm, did a pretty good job on this. And if nothing else, it gave us a solid yellow color. Whereas on these images here, I mean, you have all these dirty pixels and compression artifacts peppered throughout. Over here, we got like pretty crisp, clean white lettering now. I mean, that is pretty sweet. So that's pretty good. The only issue is over here, we have a fleet of spaceships over here, right? But if we go to the 8x upscaled image, I mean, it didn't really have a whole lot to work with. I mean, that's what the application was working with. And, whoops, and this is what the application gave us. Now, what's very interesting to me is that looks like water. It looks like it judged that to be water and made it into water. I'm just guessing, but that's what it looks like, what happened there. Over here, it looks behind the letters, so who cares? But once again, if I couldn't get my hands on an original book cover, I would still consider putting my own spaceship here. Or if I do get the original book cover and I, get like, I would definitely, want to make sure I preserve a object that resembles a spaceship. So now going over here, okay, this is our 4x upscaled image. And once again, we got this impressionist art quality going on over here, which may very well be what the original looks like to begin with. But, we got the ruby red eyes of the Shrike. We got solid colors where it counts. The backgrounds look much nicer. That looks a lot more like a starship right there. So I'm very happy with what I see there. And, the 8x might be overkill. But then we look over here and, whoops, come on, scrolling over. We're at 100% right now. You can see, we might benefit from 8x upscaling. Now, already we can see some issues here, like John Keats's face right over here. Now, we could either say, it's just impressionist art. But I think for this is a prime candidate for Photoshop, where I would get an original picture of John Keats or a painting of John Keats and paste it right on top. I'm pretty sure it's Keats. It could be Joseph Severin, but John Keats most likely is sitting over here. So we get a painting of him from real life, and we clean that up. We paste it in. So we can fix that. If I know who this is, I can fix that up. But, lady's body laying down over here, hooked up to a USB cord. That looks fine. I think most of the stonework looks fine. The nuclear, mushroom clouds look fine. The ships look good enough, and we don't have compression artifacts up the wazoo. The only real issue with all of these images would be like an example down here. These Japanese letters down here, which of course, okay, that's the 4x. But let's go to 8x upscaling. And what you're going to see here is that, like some of these letters look fudged, but let's take a look at what the original image was working with. So all things considered, I mean, that did pretty good, but either, if I was a Japanese native reader, I would probably draw this up myself, or I would look up images and try to figure out what iconographs, what kanji characters I'm looking at, and either get it from a font or just, trace it up and add it, because, I suspect these aren't quite right, especially this one. I suspect there's a lot of guessing, whereas this one here, even though there's not a lot to see here, this looks like a pretty accurate rendition, and this would be pretty straightforward to replace and fix. Same thing with the lettering here. I think that's like a Helvetica font or something like that. With the serifs on it. I'd probably leave it alone, but once again, if I was OCD enough, I can use it. And over here, I'm starting to see like evidence of the Pantone pattern. So, that looks like it tried enhancing the Pantone pattern of the, book cover's original print there. So bottom line is, that's how we use Image Glass. Very straightforward. You don't have to pay for a third-party service. You just need to download and install this application, which apparently it's still converting the second image. So I don't know. Yeah, that's not loading. Okay, I'm going to close this out for now. So it's still doing the second image because a much higher res image takes longer. And it should be noted that when you use the 8x upscale or double, it will give you some issues on very high resolution images. That is the warning it gives over here, images of large resolution. But bottom line is that is upscale. So yeah, maybe I'll do a follow-up on this or do a shorter edit on this topic. But that is, soup to nuts, how we use upscale to do upscaling. And the only thing absent from this video is how I would use Photoshop to, take it a step further. But with that, I thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And for now, we shall end transmission as soon as I find the button that lets me end it. And this is weird because OBS literally has a button that says go live